Okay. I'll call to order the September 5th Board of Public Works and Utilities Committees. Start with roll call. Mayor Smith,
Here.
Alder Wolf,
Here.
Sabrina Steger,
Present.
and Jared.
Here.
Okay, also note that in the room, we have Alder Jurassic and Alder Stokes. Is Dan on the line or anything, or maybe Sean? Just so I recognize them if they are.
Not.
Okay, all right. Okay, move on to item number 2, which is consideration and action on minutes from the previous meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Second.
Motion made to approve by Jared and seconded by Alder Wolf. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is public input. Anyone wishing to provide public input will be limited to 3 minutes per individual. If you would like to do so, please state your name and your address. Is there anyone here for public input? Second call, public input. Anyone on the phone? Okay. Third and final call for public input. That portion of the agenda is now closed. Moving on to item number 4 under the Public Works agenda is the 2024-2028 capital improvements budget. And starting with item A, the capital improvements budget, including the 2024 capital improvement budget project detail. Jared.
Thank you. In the agenda tonight, there's a link to the capital improvement budget to 2024 through 2028 capital improvement budget. This is a yearly item for those that have been here. We've go through this every year. I will go through kind of our timeline once we get a little further along. One of the things I will say this year is we did try to include more detail on projects with more explanation of projects, more maps of projects, just trying to outline what the projects were. So that was a point of emphasis this year. So I'm really pleased with how it turned out. It really complements all the department heads, what they gave us for information, and we were able to compile a really good budget. So looking at the list that you have for 24 through 28, just to get kind of some of the numbers out there. 2024, we've got a proposed budget of projects that were submitted for $14 million. This is 67 projects. And this kind of worked out this way. It wasn't meant, but 25, we got 17 million, 2026, we got 18 million, 2027, 19 million, 2028, 17 million. So just what I always like to say with the future projects that are listed in there, you know, we understand that probably not all, obviously all those projects are going to get funded in that time, but it's one of those things that what we put off today will come back tomorrow. So just wanted to make sure that we know that, you know, we got many worthy projects coming up in the future. So we've got projects, infrastructure projects, major ones coming up. 2028 Main Street's going to get redone out in front of City Hall, from City Hall all the way up to US 53. And that's going to be a multi-million-dollar project for the city to install water and sewer under that road. Sand Lake Road is in our 5-year projection to get done, and that's a multi-million-dollar project. So we've got projects coming up that are in our future list that will come due. We really end up with a nice product in the capital improvement budget. I'm just going to go through the memo that was included on the second page of the capital improvement project list, kind of outlining our timeline. So at tonight's meeting, we'll have the initial presentation of the budget, have our budget figures, goals, funding level discussion. And then October, we'll have our first meeting where we'll go through and look at projects and begin removing items due to budgetary constraints. November, we'll have a second meeting where we'll scrutinize the budget further and finalize a budget that we'll send out for public hearing notice, which we'll have that public hearing at the December Board of Public Works meeting. Hopefully we can pass a recommended budget on to council at the December 12th meeting. And that would be council adoption at the December 12th common council meeting. With that, our project financing will incur in the first quarter of 2023, depending on what various ways and means that we use to fund our capital improvement budget. So they'll be available in the spring of 2024. Just kind of moving along then, in your packet, I wanted to kind of rotate here into, typically we don't really go through the 2024 items. We'll bring them back next meeting, start scrutinizing them. I would recommend that anyone goes through that budget, looks at projects, goes to whichever department head or person that's the leader of that project. If you have questions before the next meeting, sit down with them, get the specifics of the project, where they see that project going, and getting further information. We'll kind of rotate into funding now. So if we go into our agenda packet, in page 2 of our agenda, I did include article that was put out by the League of Wisconsin Municipalities back in their May 23 magazine that comes out every month. And it really goes through, it was a good article on capital projects and inflation. And it's what we're experiencing with projects right now at various levels, whether it's operating, but it's really coming to fruition in our capital improvements budget. I'm just going to read one of the quotes in here that's in the middle of the article. If a CIP was done several years ago, it doesn't factor in changes we've seen in material price, inflation, and interest rates. Many of the plans incorporate 2 or 3% annual construction inflation over a 5-year planning cycle, and thus fall far short of being accurate estimates of current cost. We've seen that in our estimates. Last year, but when the capital improvement budget, just before it went out, I raised all the public works projects 7% at the last minute. And we still have projects, as you know, that came into bid that we were short on funds at bid time. You know, that article really goes through and kind of exemplifies that. Going along then, I'm going to show you in the packet here, we have a graph that, let me get it up here on the screen. Alder Notch is already kind of.
Put on your mountain climbing shoes.
Yeah, so if you look at this, I didn't write on this graph, but I did on the one that I have in my packet. If you look between 2005 and 2021, you can kind of put a straight line in there that does go up at a percentage rate every year, and it kind of wiggles around that line. But you can basically go from 1.3 to 1.9, and so you know costs went up about 50% over that 15-year period. You look at 2021 through 2023, it went up to 2.7. It almost increased as much in 2 years as it did over 15. And this is a chart put out by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Now, this is the highway costs, so it doesn't affect everything that we see, but it's a good indicator in general of what we're seeing in our capital improvements project list. Really does use a lot of the items that are included within this graph that they use to try and cost everything out. You know, we just don't have the buying power that we did previously before this 2-year increment. We understand that prices will probably come down. If you look at 2007 through 2009, you can see a spike there where it went back down, but it's probably not going to come back down to a level that we saw back in 2021. So I just think, based upon my experience of seeing capital projects over the years, we're going to see it come back down, but it's never going to come back down to what it was. Part of this, are we what?
Sabrina, I can hear Jared.
Okay.
Karen's on and she couldn't hear anything.
Okay. That's good. Okay. Hey, I'll start from the beginning. Take 2. Crux of the matter is our money doesn't go as far. No, that's fine. I'd rather have you ask now than an hour from now. So, you know, basically our maintenance costs have went up along with everything else we've done. So the crux of the matter is we just can't purchase what we did before. So part of what this exercise, I had Kevin actually work on this, and he did an excellent job of going through. He put his economist hat on and looked at our borrowing over the last couple of years. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin, let him go through the next couple of charts that are really kind of expound on what we're seeing.
Yeah, thank you, Jared. So as part of this sort of exercise, as Jared and I were noticing and looking at trends in the industries, not only what we do in public works, but what the city does in general, right? Anything the city has to buy, just our borrowing power in general. So we decided to take a look at some of our historical of funding, right? So the first slide, and I think Jared has it up here, right? This is just we took the last 20 years of just general obligated, the stuff we put out with bond council, right? And just to sort of track where we've done and just trying to get a gauge of buying power. So, you know, I have the years, I have the original total, and then we brought everything forward, inflationary adjusted to $23. And you can see over the last 20 years, we have averaged a little bit over $4 million in what I'll say $2023 for our buying power. He's got
The gas?
it's done. So we tried to make sure we had something that was tangible that we could see. See, like I said, you see, we've historically over the last 20 years, the city has averaged about $4.1 million in average just GO bonds, the bonds we sell with Barrett and stuff like that. And you can see over the last couple of years, we've been slightly under that, but not by a grave amount, but just so we could show that, yes, you know, as prices have gone up, some of our ability to manage those features with funding have gone down, right? And I wanted to make sure we had some good statistics. So the numbers in red, or the numbers on the first $23 is the overall average. And then I just took out the high and the low. So 2016 was the high year. That would have included general bonding for when we built the Great River Landing, right? So that one is kind of the outlier. And 2012 was the low year. This was the year the city had just gone through the stuff of the State Highway 35. We had bought a lot of land for the waterfront previously. So that's why that year is down. And if you look at that over the last 20 years, the city has still borrowed just over $4 million on average, right? You know, there's spikes for that. And then if we move on to the second chart we put together here, this is just historical capital improvements funding. So the first seat is just GO bonding or bonds. This other one includes various other funding sources we have. Most notably when we get into larger projects with some of the utilities, whether water or sanitary sewer, right? We have issued mortgage revenue bonds in certain years, right? I listed some short-term borrowing we've done over maybe more concentrated in the last 10 years. Those state trust fund loans are for various items that have not been eligible for GO bonding. Some squad cars, some maintenance item, HVAC equipment, things of that nature. So once again, did the same exercise here, had the original total for each year, and then brought those dollars forward into 2023 dollars, just so we could make sure and everybody's clear on, you know, what the historical buying power the city has had over the last 20 years. So here you can see on a 20-year average, the overall would be about $5.4 million on average. And then if you would throw out the high and the low years, the high year being 2019, that year we actually did mortgage revenue bonds for the water, sanitary sewer, and stormwater utility, equaling $10 million. And that funding was then spread over about 3.5 years to do projects actually in 18, 19, 20, and a couple of them stretched into 21 also. And then the low year based on this was 2022. So just wanted to bring forward as we looked, and as Jared and I have seen costs, what we can do now. A simple example this year, right, is a yearly maintenance project, right? Our polyfiber patching, right? Street maintenance. This year we could only afford to do half our historical annual average for that, just based on price in the construction industry and funding levels here. So That's what we're trying to show here is a sort of real current buying power over the last 20 years and just trying to show and start the discussion on is there a funding increase? And I guess I'll flip, Jared, if you want to go to that last slide, you got the graph up. So then I just graphically put these, right? The higher line, the orange line, that is once again the previous one, the National Highway Index. It's got a little shallow of a graph because it's just on the scales there. The blue line would show the capital, the total CIP bonding, where it's GO bonds, mortgage revenues, short-term interest there. And you can kind of see the one thing I'll point out there is, you know, there are years where we have the spike where we have a larger project, right? But then if you look kind of historically though, potentially we have a lot of years where we are under the average and have historically used a larger year to sort of offset where we would maybe stay fairly consistent with funding and then have a need arise where we had to have a larger than average year. So potentially that would be one thing as this discussion would move forward, right? If we would ever try to slowly increase sort of our average annual. So maybe we could one day get away from the spike or make that spike a little smaller where you would see the yearly bonding maybe kind of go up based on inflation or some sort of other metric, depending on how the city would prefer there, where potentially wouldn't have those big peaks like that. We maybe have more of a general graph and we're not trying to, oh, hey, we need all this money for a sewer project or a water project. Those would be already kind of included. Every year we're going to do X amount for water or sewer. So that was sort of the discussion there. Just wanted to point out a few things, like I said, that we're seeing for our buying power, and then also just maybe have some background knowledge as to, you know, why we do it, why we're seeing what we are.
Any questions for Kevin or Jared? Okay, got a couple comments myself. First, and again, just doing eyeballing on this, I should have done it in advance. I didn't even think about it until just now. But when you're talking large populations and statistics, and we're going back 20 years here, 21 actually, when it's inclusive. Usually a median is more informative than a mean, even dropping off a high and a low, because you still have these large swings that can give numbers that are a little not radically different, but my first look at this is the median on your general obligation bond chart is around a 3.85-ish, and your median on the capital improvement plan funding is about a 4.2. So both are a little bit under what the mean would show, if that makes sense. Not radically, but they're definitely lower. More so on the improvement plan funding on the second chart. So just kind of putting my own, I guess, perspective on there. Second, you know, before we meet next time in October, I certainly would ask all of the Board of Public Works committee members, and in fact, I would ask all of the elected officials to start delving in deep on the capital improvements budget, you know, with that link that was provided to us by Jared. And start looking at your own 1 to N list, but I would encourage you to visit with the directors and get their input as well. I think that, and that will inform all of us very, very well when we make our own recommendations starting next month. And I kind of would ask us to try to keep it down to about 3.1. Now, the goal was 3.5, is that right, Sabrina?
I think Jared was gonna give me a couple minutes to chat.
Yeah, I'll lead India here quick.
Okay.
So I was gonna finish and just say, so where's this leave the city? Obviously, we know, you know, where the number, you know, what we're gonna do. We know we can't raise the level in 1 year to catch all our costs and inflation, but we gotta have a plan. And if we don't have a plan, we're gonna risk falling behind. And I think what we're trying to show with the graphs, whether it's a mean or a median or throwing out high years or low years, is if we go down to a number, we're gonna be going behind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's our investment is just not gonna keep up with what we're you know, there's, Sabrina's gonna say this with what Baird had, but you know, there's some places are raising spending, some staying level, you know, or whatever, but I mean, it's just not gonna be able to catch up with what we have. So I'll let Sabrina kind of go into, she had some stuff she wanted to
Okay.
say.
Perfect. Thank you. So I did have some conversations with Bayard, and I've done some research of my own. The city of Onalaska, I could go back to 2006 on Moody's website. So I don't know if we did Moody's prior to 2006 or not. But from 2006 to 2010, the city of Onalaska had an AA3 rating. So for bonding, for the general fund. So in 2011 or 2011, we became an AA2. So we've had the AA2 bond rating for over 10 years. My intent as your finance director is that we would keep that AA2 rating. That helps keep interest down. We are talking, 10 to 20 basis points. So it's not a huge amount of interest. But there is some pride with keeping us at an AA2. I completely understand where Kevin and Jared are coming from with increasing rates and things of that nature, which is why I had the conversation with Brad. And by Brad, I mean Brad Vagut from Bayard. I asked him kind of what has been the city of Onalaska's methodology in regards to borrowing. And our methodology has been that we borrow less than what we pay off in a year. So we try to pay off more in a year than what we're going to borrow. I can tell you in my time here as finance director, in 2022, we did borrow $2.7 million. That was a down year for the city of Onalaska. Typically, we were around that 3 to 3.5 million from what I've gathered. For 2023, we were at 3.7 million. Also in 2023, we spent $1.2 million in ARPA funds. So we had a lot of projects that went through for 2023. We also had inflation that we had to deal with, and we will continue to deal with. In my conversations with Brad, he is not concerned about our rating dropping if we borrow this additional 2 million over 2024 and 2025 on top of what we typically borrow, which is usually, 3 to 3.5 million. Me personally, the highest I'd want to see it would be where we were at last year, which would be the 3.75. I wouldn't want to go above that and then add that additional 2 million on. So I would want to stay below that number. At the end of the day, it is the council's decision, but I would want to stay below that number. That's where I feel the most comfortable with us continuing our AA2 rating. What I can tell you, and Jared touched on this a little bit, I did ask Brad, what's everyone else doing? Because he has lots of clients throughout the state. And he said he'd be more than willing to come in October, November, wherever we'd like him, if we want him to. I feel confident in sharing what he's given me. We kind of speak the same language, but he said it's kind of a mixed bag. Some municipalities are borrowing more, which does help us for Moody's, because if our peer institutes are borrowing more money and we borrow more, it's less of a red flag. We also have very strong reserves, Brad mentioned as well. We also have been going down this trajectory where we are paying off more than what we're borrowing every year, which also helps us. But there's not an exact science to if we borrow 4.5, are they going to cut us off and drop us down? There's no exact science to the rating. We just have to be able to stand behind why we're borrowing more. Where with a big project like the community center, that's something we can really stand behind, that we have this big project and it's going to be for these next 2 years. That's all I really have, unless you have any other questions.
Well, yeah, Mayor, sorry.
Just to follow up to that, Sabrina, you had mentioned 2022 was 2.7 and 2023 was 3.7. that we borrowed, what did we pay in those years?
What did we pay
Previous
off?
debt, yeah.
1 year was 3.6. I think 3.6 was 2022. And in 2023, I think it'll be at 3.7.
Thank you.
Okay, well then I will continue with my remarks, but I'm going to adjust them. I think that my recommendation, and of course, you all can do whatever you want when we come in on these discussions, that we each try to stay within about 3.5. Understanding we can go more than that. And because guess what happens after having done this year after year? When we get together, we always go higher. We never say, oh, let's spend less. It doesn't happen. So if we can each come in with our own one-down list of around 3.5, and then as we start, having our discussions over projects and why other people think that they might be more important than that person, what have you, it's going to probably end up around that 3.75, 3.8 range is my guess on the bonding. Now, that's just the bonding, right? Or the 20-year bonds. That doesn't include the short-term borrowing as well, right?
I would want that to include short-term.
You want that
borrowing.
to include short-term. Okay, all
I
right.
mean,
That's good to know.
I would, but again, our bond rating is based on all of our borrowing and our financial statements as a whole. We have not had any short-term borrowing the past 2 years. And my time here at the city, in the last 2 years, we have used the ARPA funds. We used about 900,000 for 2022 projects that were approved, and then 1.2 million kind of
Okay.
the last of those dollars for 2023 projects.
As again, and could we have an email just go out that tells us what the median is off those charts?
Absolutely.
'Cause, I'm thinking the bonding alone, it looked to me, just, again, I was going really quickly using pen and ink, it looked like it was about a 3.85 and it was 4.2 overall. And if we're falling behind on some of these projects, do we really want to go under historical median again? I don't know, but I'd like to know what the medians are if we could. Okay. Last question too is, do we have any ARPA left? Because I know this is the last year we can spend it.
That we do not.
Okay.
Those
that's the
projects-
Good news to some degree.
Yep, those projects have been obligated. As we get closer to the end of 2023, I will be taking a look closer at all of the projects to see if we over budgeted in any areas. And then we can discuss what to do with those remaining dollars.
Okay. Anybody else? Then it sounds like you discussed 3A and or 4A and 4B on that? Yeah. that's what I thought.
That was the combination.
All right. Let's move on to agenda item number 5, bids received for the sewer camera. Back to Jared.
Thank you. In your packet tonight, I have included the bid tabulation for the sewer camera bid. We did receive one bid from McQueen Equipment. Just as a note, we did demo 6 different cameras as part of our process over the last almost well over a year. This was one that we liked. There was another one that we liked, but it was going to be $25,000 more. And I think the vendor knew that they were going to be more in the other cameras, so they just didn't bid. So we did only end up with the one bid. We are recommending getting the camera for the base bid of 99,100 plus the auxiliary camera in the rear for 4,900 for a total of 104,000. We did have 100,000 included in the 2023 capital improvement budget, and we do have funds within the sanitary sewer utility to cover the other 4,000 out of the operating budget. So it's staff recommendation. I'm recommending we buy the EnviroSight Rover X camera from McQueen Equipment in the amount of $104,000.
I'll second that.
Right, motion to approve by Jared, seconded by Mayor Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to item number 6, the 2023 Fire Bay Floor Repair Project bid, and we're back to Jared.
I can let Kevin do this. He's been working on this project for about 6 months, trying to find a logical repair to making the fire bay, but you go ahead, Kevin, if you want to take it.
Yeah, right. So this one's fairly simple tonight, right? This is more of a placeholder, the fire bay floor. This is a project that was included in the 2023 capital improvements project. It is currently out for bid. We will be opening bids the morning of the common council meeting. And then bringing those directly to council for approval next Tuesday night. So this is just more of a placeholder that this project is out and that the bids will be coming forward, review and approval next Tuesday.
Okay,
And as a note, we do anticipate that it should come in with what we had budgeted. I think it's
Yes,
anticipated
I'm
right
hopeful
now.
that it'll be in for what the budgeted amount is.
good. Any questions or concerns? Committee? No? Okay. We'll move on to item number 7, 2024 cooperative recycling agreement. And Jared.
In your packet tonight is included the cooperative recycling agreement. We have been doing this for gotta be 20 years now with the other municipalities. We do receive increased funding by working with the other municipalities. We haven't brought this in for quite a while, so we just wanted to bring it in to refresh it that we are doing this and still have been doing it. This does give you your recycler that you see that you receive at your house every year. It's a great thing. We save cost overall with everyone working together. It's actually printed locally at Crescent Printing, so it's a great thing for all the communities that are involved. So it's be looking for a motion to approve our participation in the cooperative recycling agreement.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Move to approve by myself, seconded by Mayor Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 8, which is resolution 26-2023 to declare official intent to reimburse expenditures from proceeds of borrowing. Back to you.
In your packet tonight, you can see the resolution for the official intent to reimburse expenditures. So what this is we are proposing to solicit for, we've actually solicited for funds through the Clean Water Fund Program. This is a revolving loan program that is administered by the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources. I apologize for the small print, but you can see our project application that we put in. Oh gosh, Kevin, last fall.
The intent.
Yeah, last fall. So
First year.
So we had that in, you can see that we did have an original, on page 20, you can see in the box there, we had an original project estimated cost of $935,000. Now that the project has been designed, we're closer to $650,000 on that project. Still probably, continue, we'd have to add a little bit to that for contingency based upon, bidding and what we're seeing. But this basically gets us to the point where we can, go through with the loan process. We are hoping to bid this project out in early 2024 and close on the loan at the same time. So this would let us proceed with the project. As you can see, obviously any bid would have to come forward to the council to get approved, and that a final loan package would come through. But this is the next step we need.
I move that we move forward and pass resolution 26-2023. Second.
Move to approve to move forward by Mayor Smith, seconded by Alder Wolf. Any discussion? Sabrina, any comments, concerns?
One thing I will note is one of the we haven't done clean water loans for quite a long time. But what the beauty of it is, our community never gets principal forgiveness on these loans, so we never get any grants for these projects due to our median household income being too high. But what we do, all of the applicants get is the loans are at 55% of market rate. So right now, as of today, market rate is 4%, and the loan would be at 2.145. So we are saving some money on the interest rate on the loan. So just as a side note.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other further discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Item number 9, 2023 final special assessment costs for various projects. Back to you.
In your packet on page 23, you can see the 2023 final special assessment cost for the miscellaneous concrete project. This is an administrative function, but we need formal approval of the costs so we can run the assessments through to for the project.
I move we approve the 2023 final special assessment costs for various projects as displayed in our packet.
I'll second.
All right, I'll go with Sabrina. So, the motion to approve by the mayor, seconded by Sabrina. Any discussion? Yes, Alder Wolf.
Thank you, Chair. So Jared, a quick question. As compare, how do these, page 23, the assessment costs, how do they compare to like maybe the last year or two? Are they-
Ask Kevin, I still think concrete sidewalk goes in for $3.50 a square foot, so.
Old school.
They're up, but the good thing this year is we got favorable bid this year with the contractor. That really kept the costs down. Well, let Kevin elaborate.
Correct, Jared's correct. This year, the miscellaneous concrete project, we had seen bids and the winner of the bid had lower historical averages for square foot of concrete, square foot of curb replacement for that. I did not ask the contractor. It's Braun Building Center LLC. You can see that's the general contractor for it. But these come directly out of the bid itself, the project itself, right? The numbers are just whatever the bid cost is, we add the 7.5% administrative fee. So these are used for various things on this miscellaneous concrete project. Like the part A is for like if a citizen would request a replacement. And the part B covers our annual sidewalk management program where we look for trip hazards, ADA compliance. So that's where the costs come from.
Great, thank you.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item number 10. Pay estimates. We have 13 items on the list.
Motion to approve the 13 monthly pay estimates as per the packet dated September 5th, 2023.
Second.
Motion to approve the 13 pay estimates as published in the agenda. Motion by Alder Wolf, seconded by Mayor Smith. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to the,
Chair?
yes,
One quick question. Before we move on to utilities, would you humor me and allow me to ask two quick questions going back to number 4 regarding capital
Absolutely.
improvements?
sure.
Thank you, Chair. So Jared, two quick questions. And maybe this might be an Amanda question. Are we still looking at elections doing a tour of proposed capital improvements?
I'm sure we can schedule a tour and take everyone out.
'Cause I think
either-
we had responded many
Mhm.
weeks ago.
Mm.
But I just hadn't seen anything yet. so
Yeah,
I-
if there's a consensus that the elected officials want to go on a tour, we can,
Okay.
like we did last year.
Oh, yeah, so because I don't know how many elders responded, but I think, I personally thought that it went really well last year, and I think
Right.
we're a lot more aware of what was going on,
Mm-hmm.
and secondly, at what point in time will the capital improvement budget go to common council?
This, with the timeline I've outlined, it would be December 12th
Okay,
for final approval would be the final approval at the council meeting.
so I just want to make sure, though, that council will be able to weigh in and have input at that meeting. Because right now, there's only 2 of us
Mhm.
who sit on Board of Public Works that represent council. So I just want to make sure that the other 4 will have input.
And obviously, anyone can come for the public hearing in December at the Board of Public Works. You know, anyone can come. But I would think that as the meetings go on, you know, and typically we have not taken the budget to the council for public hearing in the past. I don't believe that we have. So,
I know last year it was quite a lengthy, that's when we were talking about a lot of ARPA money, and there were a lot of changes and there were a lot of votes at the
Mhm.
November meeting last year after it passed Board of Public Works, before it went to public hearing in December. That's why I'm asking now, because I just want to know that, just like to know if we're all on the same page.
mhm.
If I recall right, in the last 2 years also, Dan, October was pretty much internal. November, when we try to really get it down to a more realistic number, our first one usually comes in over. We have also usually anyone who's in attendance from other members of the Common Council at that Board of Public Works have asked for them to chime in on any projects that we have overlooked that they want to, say, or they really want to get in front of that Common Council too. And we've given them a chance to have that input, if I recall right, in November.
No, I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure if I understood, if, I don't know if it's a legal question or not, if Amanda's still on, whether or not there can be changes at the December meeting, December council meeting,
Sure.
if there are any changes. That's my main concern. Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 11, which is the beginning of the utilities agenda. That's City of Onalaska Stormwater, which includes the 2024 stormwater budget, establish the 2024 equivalent runoff unit ERU rate, and the 2023 stormwater financials. Jared.
Can I start, Jared?
Yep, go
You
ahead.
wanna-
You-
you wanna-
yep,
Yeah, if
yep,
I can
Sabrina,
s-
yep. let-
I'll start with the budget and then I'll let Jared
Okay.
Jared and Kevin continue on with all three, the storm, sewer and water. So tonight I did hand out we did find one change, thank you, Kevin, to the stormwater utility budget. So I did hand out an updated spreadsheet. The lines that changed was the wages regular line, and then FICA and WRS were the changes. We had not had an individual wasn't being charged to stormwater that should have been. So that was the main change there. But in regards to the budget as a whole, in regards to changes, I budgeted an increase in revenues, a fairly conservative increase in revenues. And then in regards to expenses, salaries, wages, health insurance, dental insurance, all of those numbers are numbers that I updated. Our salaries and wages, I did incorporate a 2-2 COLA, which is what was directed. In regards to wages for 2024, that was kind of not set, but recommended that a change like that would be suitable in the May meeting. So that is what you will see in all of the budgets going forward is a 2-2. Obviously, that can be changed at any time. Our WRS rate is going up to 6.9%, which is a match employee and employer for non-union employees. So that is the WRS factor. In regards to health and dental insurance, we do not have any concrete numbers yet. So I did anticipate a 10% increase in our health insurance rates and our dental insurance rates. And then I'll hand it over to Jared.
So going through the budget, the stormwater budget, we go through a lengthy process. You can see the pages that are attached when we go through that budget. Basically, a lot of what we're seeing, our employee wages and benefits are up. We did increase the consultant services for permit compliance. We had the Wisconsin DNR come in and review our materials, and we actually ended up hiring, as you know, we hired Strand Associates to do some work for us. We scaled back that work, but we did increase the amount in there for that. We did increase the equipment budget because the equipment is going up, and that's been the same number in that budget for at least 6 years. Might even be as longer than that number has not moved. And then catch basin repairs, we increased that number too. So between all those four things, it comes to $80,000. It's a lot of the increases. We've got different things, IT services. You're going to see that through water, sewer, storm. We're investing more in our IT system to be more robust and secure. We've increased just things that have went up. Leaf vacuuming goes up by the CPI 4%. So things like that. So overall, in your packet tonight, you can see that there is a graph on page 31 of the last 10 years of ERU costs. This year, for 2023, the ERU, which is one equivalent runoff unit. So each home in the city is one ERU. And then if commercial, industrial sites and things are based upon actual impervious area, The one ERU is $97.60. We are proposing to raise that to $104.68, which would then be going from 24.40 a quarter to 26.17 a quarter on their quarterly utility bill. I guess with that, I'd open it up for specific questions. We kind of went through A and B at the same time because they're interrelated on what the budget is and what the ERU cost will be.
I'd just like to go ahead and make a comment that I do think the gradually increasing the ERU over time as reflected in the inflation and other things is a much better way to go at it than to try to keep it flat and then have jagged, unexpected raises.
It's certainly less of a incline than the highway chart.
It has went up this year, but like I said, we've got some things that are catching up with us that we just have to, invest in. Especially the permit compliance. We could probably hire a full-time engineer just to do stormwater activities within the city and be able to keep that person busy, but we are getting it done in a variety of methods and a variety of staff members splitting duties, so. I guess what we're looking for tonight is, I would say the approval of the budget and what if establishing the ERU rate, and then we can go over this year's financials after that, or if he wants to go through them before that, we can too.
I move that we approve the or you want to approve it or just move forward with it?
Move it forward to the final budget. hearing.
I move that we move the 2024 stormwater budget forward to the next step as presented. And also that the 2024 ERU rate would be set at 104.68 as described in our packet tonight.
I'll second. All right. Move the motion to move the 2024 stormwater budget forward and establish the ERU rate as published was by Mayor Smith, seconded by myself. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and that puts us up to 11C. That's the 2023 stormwater financials.
And let Sabrina take this if she would.
All right, thank you. So in your packets tonight, starting on page 41 is the balance sheet for the stormwater utility. Then if I draw your attention to page 43, that is the budget report for the stormwater utility. This is again, just through 2 quarters of water billing. So we still have our largest billing coming up here in the next month. So as you can see, year to date, we are at 47.39% in regards to revenue remaining, which is exactly where I would expect us to be, having 2 quarters left of revenue. Then if you take a look at page 44, this will give us our total expenses and expenses remaining. That is at 65.77%. Again, exactly where I expect it to be for a year to date. If there's any specific questions for line items, I definitely answer those, but nothing that is overly alarming or anything that I'm concerned with the stormwater utility.
One thing to note in the financials is the depreciation has not been put in yet. So that's the reason that our expenses are lower than what is projected.
That is correct. And we also have our second payment for the mortgage revenue bonds and the GOD, the general obligation debt interest payments as well, which will be coming up in October. So those are some of the bigger expenses that will still be coming.
I'll make a motion to file the 2023 stormwater financials as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Again, a motion by myself, seconded by Sabrina. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next is item 12, City of Onalaska sanitary sewer, and we have multiple items here. The 2024 sanitary sewer budget, the sewer methodology, changes to the treatment rate for 2024, changes to the transmission rate for 2024, and then to 2023 sanitary sewer financials. Do you want to start with Sabrina again? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. So in your packets, starting on page 46 is the budget worksheet for the sewer fund. We did, and Jared and I talked quite a bit about all of these budgets. We are anticipating about a 5% increase in revenues. So we did increase our revenues for 2024. In regards to expenses, similar situation, again, budgeting. Right now, this is at a 2% in January COLA and then a July COLA of 2%, with WRS going up to 6.9%. And then the insurance, I'm budgeting a 10% increase for both health and dental. And then also, I didn't mention this with the storm water utility, but we haven't gotten our rates from CIVMIC yet, which is kind of our property insurance, vehicle insurance, nor have we gotten our quote from MPIC, which is municipal insurance, which they insure all of our property, like our smaller contractors type property. We haven't gotten our rates yet. I did anticipate a 10% increase in those as well. So you'll see that in all of these budgets that are coming forward.
When do you expect those to finalize?
I believe Amanda's online. I think she said that they typically will update them at the October conference. Is that what you had mentioned, Amanda? You're still on. I'm pretty sure she had mentioned to me that that we would get our rates at the October. They have an October CIVMIC conference that we would get our rates then. So likely before I submit the budget to you, I should have, usually they give me a range. So like, here's the low end, here's the median, here's the high range. And typically I usually go toward the median range when I'm putting the budget together.
I would point out, just looking through the budget, one of the biggest items that drives our sanitary sewer budget is the La Crosse treatment charges. We did receive a letter, when we first put the budget together, we anticipated 10% increase. In discussions with the city of La Crosse staff, we did finally receive a letter saying that they were going to raise the sanitary sewer rate, wholesale rate that we get charged for treatment of our sewer 9%. So that is included within the budget. When we go through the budget, you know, that we did, once again, as I stated, there's our electric and natural gas costs are going up. We have some IT, software, security things that we're increasing funding on, increase the fuel a little bit in the sanitary sewer budget, but for the most part, it's really not a lot different from previous years. The largest sum is the La Crosse wholesale charges being increased. With that, under sewer methodology, we're planning on keeping all the sewer methodology the same as we have in previous years, where we will have the winter average during the first quarter, charge for actual sewer usage in the second quarter, and use the summer. In the summer, we'll use the winter average. So that we're not planning on changing anything. Changes to the treatment rate. We are currently charging $3.33 per 100 cubic feet of treatment. Looking through, as you know, we've went through the sewer wholesale treatment rates over the last few years, and we actually have been raising them a percentage based upon how much the treatment rate has been going up. We back calculated that into what we're actually charging, and our number has gotten enough fluff in it that by doing percentages, not calculating it to the exact number, our treatment rate is at the level currently that we will be able to handle the 9% increase. So we are not proposing to increase the treatment charges that we're passing on from La Crosse within our sanitary sewer budget. We are in the transmission rates for 2024, we are proposing a 5% increase. So that would go from $2.55 per 100 cubic feet to $2.68 per cubic feet. Once again, this is like I stated in what we were seeing, the transmission charges is what covers the cost for the city of Onalaska to get that sewer through our conveyance system, through our lift stations, and get it down to the city of La Crosse. So that is what we need in order to run our sewer system. So those are what I kind of went through all A through D, but that's where we're at. I guess Sabrina, if you have anything you want to add, you can. So once again, we're looking basically for approval of the sewer budget. The treatment rates, we're proposing to stay the same, but the transmission rate, we are proposing for an increase.
Anyone want to make a motion? If not, I will.
I'll make a motion that we approve and move forward the 2024 sanitary sewer budget as presented. For item B, that we continue with the sewer methodology as Jared just described. Item C, changes to the treatment rate for 2024 will remain the same. Item D, changes to the transmission rate to 2024. There will be a 5% increase as described.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Smith, seconded by Alder Wolf to approve as presented. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, which brings us to 12E, the 2023 sanitary sewer financials. Sabrina.
Next, yeah, thank you. Next in your packet on page 54 is the balance sheet for the sewer utility. If I can draw your attention to page 57 is the budget report for the sewer utility. As you can see, through August of 2023, we do have 35.67% remaining to hit our budgeted revenues. I anticipate that we will go over our budgeted revenues. I was clearly too conservative when budgeting, which is always a good thing. We will have those additional 2 quarters that will be coming in to round out 2023. Taking a look at expenses, if I can draw your attention to page 59, this gives us our total remaining expenditures for 2023. We do have 51.08% remaining. A large portion of that, again, is depreciation, which we do record at the end of the year. Typically, when we're getting close to audit time, I do all of those depreciation journal entries because I have a little better idea of how much equipment we purchase throughout the year to record depreciation. We also do have 2 debt payments still to pay in regards to our general obligation debt and our mortgage revenue bonds. So those will kind of round out the larger expenses that we have left remaining for 2023.
Move to file,
Second.
seconded by Mayor Smith, motion by me to file. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Item number 13, the City of Onalaska water, which again, it will be kind of presented, I think, in 2 different phases. First one is going to be the 2024 water budget. And then the submission of water simplified rate case adjustment to Wisconsin Public Service Commission. And when we're done with that, we'll probably do we'll be doing the 2023 water financials. So guess we'll go over to Sabrina again.
Thank you, Chair. So in your packets tonight, starting on page 61, is the budget worksheet for the water fund. Starting out with revenues, I did budget a 5% increase in regards to our revenues. In regards to residential, commercial, industrial, irrigation, things of that nature. I did keep public fire protection similar to prior years and just kind of estimated based on past practice for other revenues and past year-to-date activity in regards to revenues. Then for expenses, similar story as I've mentioned before, wages, the difference there is incorporating that COLA. Our WRS went up as well as insurance budgeting, the 10%. And then budgeting 10% for our insurances through CIVMIC. And budgeting similar depreciation to last year, at 830,000, just to be conservative, for depreciation. Otherwise, everything else would come from Jared. The one thing, I don't know if you want to talk about line items and then I can talk about the case.
Yeah, I can just add for the water budget. Obviously last summer was dry and we had a dry May and then we got quite a bit of rain and our water consumption went down. Well, the last probably over 3 weeks, it hasn't rained again. So we are our water utility is providing higher amounts of water to customers. So we're bringing in more income to cover our overhead and fixed costs. So it's a good thing for the water utility that we are bringing in more revenue. So I do envision that we will be bringing in more than anticipated revenue through this 2023. But that ebbs and flows. We have years where then it rains and we don't have a lot of usage. So our system does not have a lot of industrial customers, so our usage can go up and down quite a bit based upon what the summer usage is. So just as a heads up, we do have seen chemical costs and power costs go up. Quite a bit of the budget is for pumping of water and conveyance of water. Use a lot of power, a lot of fuel, and those costs have went up. And also the chemicals have went up pretty astronomically. So those are some of the things in our line operating budget. We didn't, pretty much everything else is within reason, but those are two things that we've seen really kind of bounce up. So with that, I'll let Sabrina go over the rate case.
Thank you. So I did reach out to Hawkins Dash CPAs, which are auditors, regarding doing a simplified rate case adjustment through the Wisconsin Public Service Commission. They did recommend that we consider that as an option just in regards to inflation over the last few years. We did do a large increase to our water rates in 2021, I believe.
2020 and 2021, we had a 2-year rate adjustment to cover infrastructure build out and just costs in general.
The simplified rate case is a much smaller feat. I can complete it through the PSC. I will have to submit some data from the city and then they will let us know if we qualify for a small increase in our water rates. But I do need a board approval before I do that. After I would go in and start that process, they would submit some information back to me and then we would have to have a public hearing and so forth. But if that is the intent of the committee, then I will work on that over the next couple of weeks before we would meet again in October.
I move that Sabrina submit the water simplified rate case adjustment to the Wisconsin Public Service Commission, or at least start the process so we can approve that.
I'll second. Okay, motion to submit the water simplified rate case so that we can move forward to the Wisconsin Public Service Commission. That motion was made by Mayor Smith, seconded by myself. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to 13C, the 2023 water financials. Back to
Did
you.
we approve
We-
that 2024 budget or did I?
The water budget, we should
I
have. a
lost
motion on
my
the water budget to
Did not. Thank you.
pass it forward.
I move that we approve the 2024 water budget as presented.
A motion to approve the 2024 water budget as presented by Mayor Smith, seconded by Alder Wolf. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Mary, for catching that. Okay, now it's 13C, the 2023 water financials.
All right, in your packets tonight, we're getting towards the end, page 72. It starts the balance sheet for the water utility. If I can draw your attention to page 75, that will bring us to our budget report. Year to date, through August of 2023, we do have 52.35% remaining, in revenues. Usually third quarter is our best quarter for water, so I'm not really concerned with us hitting those marks. I don't know if Jared wants to add anything. But we do have 2 quarters left, so I'm very comfortable in where we're at in regards to revenues. In regards to other expenses, if you look at page 77, that gives us our total expenses year to date, total percent remaining being 59.76%. The large items that are remaining, again, still are borrowing. We will have an October payment that'll actually be coming to council next week that I'm going to be making those payments for October 1st deadline. We will also have depreciation for our equipment, as well as we have to do a yearly journal entry regarding taxes. So that is usually done near the end of 2023. Everything else is pretty straightforward. No concerns on my end in regards to expenses for the water utility.
I'll move to file the 2023 water financials.
Second.
Motion to file by myself, seconded by Jared. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That brings us to item number 14, adjournment.
I'll move to adjourn.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn at 7:36 by Sabrina Steger, seconded by Alder Wolf. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.